Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Varsity-Game On football show. We're going to be live here every Wednesday at Wednesday evenings for a chance for all of us to get together and talk a little bit of South Jersey high school football. One of the great things about this season, A, we're finally back on the football field and playing actual games, and B, the Burlington County Times is joining forces with the Courier Post and the Vineland Daily Journal to expand on football coverage across all of South Jersey. I know I'm really excited. This is my 26th season as a football writer on the sidelines of Burlington County, but now I get to stretch out and be in South Jersey along with all our friends here at the Courier Post and the Vineland Daily Journal. I'd like to introduce Josh Friedman, who'll tell our Burlington County watchers and listeners a little bit about himself. Josh?
Thanks for having me, Tom. Well, thanks for we're partnering up. My name's Josh Friedman. If you don't know me, I know a lot of people in South Jersey already do. I've been covering football. I've been here in South Jersey covering sports for about 13 years. I've been here at the Courier Post for 3 or 4. I've gotten to know some great coaches, some great players, and it's pretty obvious, Tom. I know you get a lot of good football in Burlington County, but really all across South Jersey, you're going to see some fantastic football, and more and more people are starting to see it, and really fans. The fans that are getting into stadiums this year certainly are going to get a treat watching the players and the games we are fortunate enough to cover and get paid to see. So,
well, I know I'm excited to work with you and Tom McGurk, who've been with the Courier Post for forever, and like my partner John Lewis, who has been here every step of the way. John, introduce yourself to the rest of South Jersey. Some people might know you from the soccer sidelines, and definitely the people in Burlington County know you, but how did you get on the sidelines in Burlington County and now South Jersey?
Well, I've been on the sidelines in Burlington County since 1981 when I was wearing a football uniform. A couple of years later, 1983, I started covering for that tabloid to the north. I did that for 13 years, and I moved to the Burlington County Times in 1996.
Okay, well, we've got 75, 80 years of experience here together. Tom McGurk puts that up over 100. Now, this is the strangest year that I can think of. I know everybody understands what's going on. Josh, some of the COVID-19 problems that we've had just to get a football game going. What were some of the things that you saw and some of the challenges that teams have overcome so far?
well, just first of all, just getting together. I mean, we've all talked to coaches. I've talked to many coaches, many ADs, and so many were just worried about even practicing together, let alone playing a football game this year. And by the time the minimal practice time because of pods and hitting and all that kind of stuff, teams are in new territory. New coaches, coaches that were hired this year have barely had any time to be with their teams. Coaches of longstanding teams haven't had a chance to get to know their freshmen, their sophomores. Young players don't have nearly the opportunity to prove themselves. These are strange times in covering football, and we're all just kind of it's experimentation in a lot of ways. A lot of more vanilla playbooks than normal. Even just getting used to stadiums. Last week that there was not much energy in the games I was at just because limited crowds of 500 people. You're not hearing the raucous stadium that we're so used to in South Jersey. So I think everyone's just kind of getting used to it, and it's certainly been a challenge. And but everyone's thankful. Everyone's thankful that they're playing. Every single kid I talked to said, whether they won or they were part of the other side of the score, they're all just thankful that they had the opportunity to be on the field last weekend, and it showed.
Now, John, you talked about being a Burlington City player. I played at Shawnee right around the same time that you did. We never got to play against each other, but we've battled each other in newsrooms across South Jersey since. But Burlington City is one of the tougher stories that we've had in South Jersey this season. They decided not to come back and play any athletic events at all. You spoke to some of the kids there and the athletic director, and what's going on at City, and how much does it hurt your heart to see the Blue Devils not out there every Friday night?
Well, I have no idea what I'm going to do on Thanksgiving, for one thing. But yeah, obviously it's very painful, and even more painful because of the way that it happened. There were a lot of schools that put off the question. I think that they were trying, maybe eyeing up saving a little bit of money by not having a fall season. And they pushed the decision back and didn't name coaches and didn't go through the phased workouts. There were a lot of schools that did it, but Burlington City, for some reason, they got to the last day that they could possibly do it, and they got even beyond that. They held a school board meeting to discuss the question. They pushed the question back after that. And then finally, when everyone else had started, they said, okay, well, we're not going to play. And what really hurt for me was for the students who, they wanted to play. They didn't have a chance to transfer. They didn't have a chance to go anywhere else. It was already too late. That window had shut by the time this decision was made. It's not just hurtful the way that it happened, or hurtful that it happened. It's as much the way that it happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of tough decisions had to be made at high schools all around South Jersey. Last week we had a situation where teams had to opt out with a positive test or two as late as Thursday night. Eastern, I know, picked up a game at the last minute, played Union City. We've got Clearview playing Glassboro, which on the surface doesn't sound like a normal matchup between two teams, but because of the situation, the team suddenly had open windows. Josh, how much struggle? I mean, we've had 7 or 8 different West Jersey Football League schedules just since the middle of August.
Yeah, it actually Clearview is the team that had to cancel. It's actually Highland that's going to play.
You're right.
But yeah, it's tough. I mean, Clearview. I talked to Coach Scanlon quite a bit this summer. He was very open, about what Clearview's gone through. They had shut a couple pods down during the summer, and even during the lead up, they were kind of, he was kind of holding his breath, and every day he's like, he's wondering, is this going to get it the day we shut down? And he got to Thursday and he's thinking, oh, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. And then it happened, and it's just crushing. And, the team they were going to play, Delsey, they lose a game. They didn't do anything, and they lose a game. And you saw that with St. Augustine and Vineland. St. Augustine gets shut down on a weekend, and Vineland, they don't have anyone to play. And then St. Augustine winds up reopening, and they could have maybe played. The ramifications of one team shutting down impacts another and another. Like I said, Clearview was supposed to play Highland this week. It didn't happen. Thankfully, Highland got Glassboro from another cancellation with Pennsville, I believe. I believe Pennsville just shut down, and that's why Glassboro opened up. It's really going to be a game of just kind of fitting puzzle pieces together this whole year. Lenape, some of the schools were fortunate, if they call it fortunate. Lenape was off long enough where they didn't impact their opponent and things like that. But it's going to be, you're going to see every coach I've talked to says, this is going to be, I think they expect 2, 3, 4 teams to get shut down every week. And it's just going to be a matter of fitting the puzzle pieces together one way or another.
Well, Lenape is an interesting story. I was in the first field hockey game of the high school season on Thursday at Lenape, and I was talking with their principal, and they were still looking for a game by that point. And by the time the game was over, they had rescheduled St. Augustine for Thanksgiving week because that was their open week. Now, they had to move their original game, Cherokee, to the end of the season because they weren't playing in an opening week. John, it's weird enough not having our normal Thanksgiving Day slate of games coming up, but Lenape, one of the best teams in the state, they were off for 2 weeks. What do you expect out of them this week? And how great is it that they found an extra game?
Well, when I think about that, I look at what happened with Willingboro this week. They weren't able to schedule a scrimmage. They scheduled in Cocos Valley. The scrimmage had to be called off, or was called off. And you just need that little edge. You need that little bit of fine tuning, I think, to come out and play your best game right out of the chute. I think maybe Lenape lacks that.
Now, that's going to be a problem for them. It's tough. You need to have that live action and to be shut down. And you can only watch so much film, and you can only do so many chalk talks before people start getting a little bit antsy. How was the quality of the games that you saw, Josh? I mean, you're used to seeing the best game in South Jersey every single week. You cover the the South Jersey game of the week. John does the Burlington County game of the week. How was the quality of the games you saw this week, John or Josh?
It was sloppy. I mean, there were penalties. I look at the Williamstown Timber Creek game. Williamstown won 21-0, and Williamstown played great. Defense is still stellar. They played solid, but they made some mistakes. But Timber Creek was just not themselves. They have some of the most talented kids in South Jersey, and just there were drops, lots of penalties, throws. I know Donovan Leary, it's going to be a Division I quarterback, would love to have back. Johnny Martin, I'm sure would have loved to find couple different holes. Even the coaches, I talked to Brian Wright after the game. He feels like he left some plays out there just X's and O's wise, not making the right calls. And that's what scrimmages do. That's what practice time does. And that's just going to take time. It's just one of those things where you can't, as you said, you can't simulate it with film study. You got to be out there, and those false starts, those early jitters, those things that you can kind of work the kinks out. You couldn't do that this year. These teams, Timber Creek's going to be a much better team in a month. Williamstown's going to be even better, but again, they made mistakes. St. Joe Academy, they didn't quite look like themselves. Holy Spirit, they won that game. I saw them, Holy Spirit and St. Joe. Holy Spirit, played really well, but again, plays they'd like to have back, drops, overthrows, missed tackles. They're all parts of the game, but you definitely saw more of them this week than you usually do, in October. So,
no, I saw Delran Cinnaminson, and then I went down to Bridgeton to see them play Buna, and well, the first thing that I noticed was the complex at Bridgeton is just spectacular, and I got to hang with their athletic director, Cindy Wilkes, who was a great track and field performer in her day. One of my first favorite South Jersey athletes ever. But the thing at Bridgeton is, as nice as that stadium was, because they didn't have kids in school yet, they decided that they wouldn't have the 500 people in the stadium. They just had the football teams, the athletic trainers, the band, and the cheerleaders were alone in the stands by themselves, big area. But what they did was they put cars along the fence line all the way through and had the parents sit in the car so they could at least watch some of the game from beyond their normal vantage point. But you talked about the atmosphere not being great. That was what was missing most for me, is you didn't feel like it was a real Friday night. Cinnaminson was a little bit better because they had some people in the stands, but normally they'd have 1,800 people jamming their stands on both sides, and you'd smell the hot dogs cooking, and that just wasn't there. It just didn't feel like a Friday night. You didn't have the band. They only have one band in the West Jersey Football League. The home band's the only one there, so you're not going to have band battles back and forth, which is going to make Camden Wilson a lot less fun than it normally would be. But just the whole atmosphere of things just was off. And I can live with maybe a false start here and there as long as the kids are playing as hard as they can. John, what did you see in your two games?
Well, the atmosphere was off a little bit, like you said. The other thing that I'm looking at, though, and I heard coaches say this is a game that we're going to wish we could have back. I mean, Woodrow Wilson getting to the Shawnee quarterback late in the game. I think they had 3 sacks in the fourth quarter. Given another month, Shawnee is going to clean up their pass protection. That's not going to happen to them. And obviously that had a big impact on the game.
Now, you guys saw the better games in South Jersey, but the one that we weren't at, Burlington Township, Willingboro. John, you talked to Tom Madera a little bit. What happened there? Willingboro has been one of the best teams in South Jersey for the last couple of years, and I think Tom Madera found a way to steal one early in the season.
The very first thing that he said was we were fortunate, and he referenced them not having a scrimmage, not being able to fine tune like we were talked about. The other thing, special teams gave them 8 points. They got a safety on a fumbled punt, and then returned the free kick for a touchdown. AJ Johnson, I think it was a 59-yard return. I mean, that's a turning point in any game, but combine that with your defense putting up a great show, and they're new on defense. They have one face back in the secondary from last year. So, he taught them alignment and assignment. That's what he always stresses as far as playing defense goes. But you really don't know what they're going to do once they get on the field. And he was, happy and pleased all the way across. I think going forward, you might expect a little bit more of their offense. I know they have Gage Miller back from last year. He started to really impress, I thought, toward the end of the year. And I think you got to look out for Township. I mean, that's what I take away from that.
What about Willingboro? Was it just an off night for them?
I talked to Steve Everett yesterday, and he gave me this stat. I already knew this, but he gave me this stat. He is 0-7 on opening day. He's not great on the second week of the season. And, they're going to play West Deptford this week. One of those two teams is going to be 0-2, which is just, boggles the mind to think about. West Deptford hasn't been 0-2 in 30 years. But, they're not panicking. That's the other thing he said. We've been 0-1, we've been 0-2. We know how to play. We're going to get there. Only thing is, you only have 6 games. You're guaranteed 8, but you only really have 6 to make that impression.
Now, Josh, Timber Creek, Williamstown, we've been fortunate. The Lenape District schools play those guys over the years and had some really great rivalries. But when those two teams get together, you expect a barn burner. Is that what you got?
No, again, Williamstown won 21-0, and Williamstown really dominated the game. One of the things I wrote about was simply that one of the few teams I felt was that you could survive COVID and the shutdown was Williamstown, because they, while the coach Fusatola retired, that whole coaching staff is back, and they've had this same mentality, the same structure, the same culture for a few years now. And really, they just don't miss a beat. Last year they lost linebackers to injury and they filled in. And they still won a South Jersey Group 5 championship. It's just one of those programs that it's hard for them to get off the rails. And even though they weren't perfect, that defense was just spectacular. They held Timber Creek to 103 yards of offense. And Donovan Leary, Division I quarterback, Johnny Martin going to Temple, Jihad Campbell, receiver, defensive end. He's got offers from Clemson, Florida, Oregon, Texas. I mean, the works. They've got 2 Division I linebackers, 2 Division I linemen, I should say, other athletes, and just. But a new coach, Brian Wright, new system. I think it's going to take some time. And again, just not perfect and not quite in sync with each other. And that lack of a preseason, that lack of offense, that lack of the off season, it certainly hurt Timber Creek. And I expect them to be a much different team in 3 years. They're going to be much more dangerous. And you saw that same thing with Camden and Winslow. Winslow upset Camden. Camden is just that team. You just surprised to see. With those athletes and to not put up points, and again, just kind of some shaking off the rust, and a Winslow team that's got a great defense and made 1 or 2 more plays. A stop, Emerald Mitchell, a stop on 4th and goal, 4th and goal from the 2 with under 2 minutes left. And those are the plays that won those games last week. And these teams we saw week 1 aren't going to be the same teams we see, at the end of October. But thankfully, these losses aren't hurting them. We talk about Williamsburg, we talk about Canada, we talk about Timber Creek. We're not playing, sadly, we're not playing for championships. So it's not like it's going to hurt their playoff positioning. We'll forget about week 1 down the road, and we're not going to think about, this cost them a championship, because there's no championships to play for.
Now, Winslow and Burlington Township, those are 2 teams that could possibly be a little bit of a surprise. I know over the years, Winslow, because of their great track program, you're always leery of what their athletes can do to you if you're not vigilant about things. But, a win against Camden, no matter when it is, that's a pretty eye-opening thing in South Jersey. Is Winslow maybe one of those teams that might have a great 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I think Winslow is one of those teams where they've been the last few years. Multiple coaches have told me preseason the last few years, watch out for Winslow, they're really good. Watch out for Winslow, they're really good. And what single score losses, just 1 or 2, couple more mistakes every game, and they wound up just not fulfilling the potential I think they had. This year, it might work out. That might be the year those mistakes are gone. Coach Scott is a heck of a coach. They bring back Bill Belton, one of the great football players the last 25 years in South Jersey. He's coaching the offense. They've got a Boston College cornerback in Jalen Cheek. And like I said, stellar athletes. They always have those. If they could just cut back on the mistakes and, do their job, they've always had the potential to be a top 15 team every year. And that win, there were tears. Tom McGurk was there covering that game. There were tears in kids' eyes for beating Camden. And that might just be the win, the motivation, the confidence booster they need to kind of get this program, soaring up, because they're always going to have the players to really, frighten teams, whoever they are.
Now, I remember my playing days, and from being on the sidelines, that emotion's going to carry teams as much as anything else, especially in a short season like this. Township catching stuff in a bottle. Burlington Township. I got to remember, in South Jersey, township means different things to different people. But John, Burlington Township, people know how good a coach Tom Madera is, but they might not know some of the names on the township's roster this year.
Well, like I mentioned, Gage Miller is the quarterback. He showed a lot of potential last season. He's going to step up, I think, and be a really good quarterback. Jordan Dotson plays wide receiver, tight end for them. Also plays in the secondary. Another outstanding player. And AJ Johnson, like you said, player of the week this week. And going forward, he's going to be that element. He's going to give them the speed that Mike Thomas gave them in the past, that Everett Wormley gave them.
Yeah. Now, we got to start thinking about week 2. What's on your docket for this weekend, Josh? And what games are you looking forward to?
I'll be at 2 games. I'm starting on Friday. I'll be at Woodrow Wilson. Probably our biggest ranked matchup of the week. Wilson at number 4 in this week's rankings. Cherokee jumps up all the way to number 7. John, you saw Wilson this week. Obviously, I know you didn't used to see them too much. But they've got a great quarterback, Devin Cargman. I've heard that Amari Clark got banged up in that game. That'll be a one to watch for this week. Is he playing against Cherokee? Maryland receiver. That's one that's certainly a big loss if he's not playing. I have not talked to Preston this week about that. They've got great linemen. Josh Nobles, excellent. Their linebackers are phenomenal. Dawu Shakir is one of my favorites in South Jersey. The way he plays, the way he hits, how downhill he goes. He's really fun to watch, and his partner Demir McCray. Again, them and Lenape really, put those 2 linebacking cores together. They're special. And then the secondary is great as well. So Wilson's got the talent. I know they weren't clean, perfect this past week, but they're going to be tough. And then Cherokee, they beat Pennsauken pretty handily. That was the makeup game from Lenape. I think they won 42-6 in that range. They've got a great quarterback too. Billy Osborne, kind of overlooked in South Jersey a little bit, but he's going to play football in college for sure. They have a great man in the secondary, Ty Bartram. Caden Birdie is one of the top receivers in South Jersey. And they've got, you can argue they've got one of the best linemen in South Jersey, and Josh Toner. Goes both ways. He was an All-South Jersey first teamer last year, going to James Madison. He's gonna wreck plays up the middle, both from an offensive line standpoint and defensive line standpoint. Cherokee, obviously, they won a championship last year. These are 2 champions returning. Cherokee was more of a surprise. They bring back a lot of kids, though. I think this is going to be a really competitive game and a lot of fun. And then as far as Saturday goes, I love this rivalry. Pennsgrove-Salem at Pennsgrove. Some people in South Jersey might not get down to Pennsgrove or Salem. It's kind of down there, but these 2 teams, it's fun to watch. The rivalry is fantastic. They don't like each other, respect each other, but don't like each other. And they've got there's talent down there, if you didn't know. As far as Pennsgrove goes, Nasir Hollywood Robinson going to Navy, great running back. The matchup to watch there will be him against Salem linebacker Le'Veon Jones. Whoever wins that matchup could win the game. If Salem can slow down Nasir, it's going to be Jaleel Patrick at quarterback, the sophomore. He's got great speed, maybe the best speed on the team, but he's a sophomore. Still got to figure out his role, still figuring out his position. As far as goes, keep your eye on Bobby Arnold III. Lightning quick, just the next in line of great playmaker in Salem. We've had Jonathan Taylor, Zaire Jones, Kassir Street last year, and now Bobby Arnold. He does it everything. The only thing he doesn't play is the line, and you'll see him everywhere, and he can be really special. The last 4 times the teams met, I believe it's a 1-score game, and last year, stopped at the last play of the game was a stop at the inch line. Pennsgrove from High Scott graduated, stopped Kassir Street, I believe, at the inch line. And that was a walk-off win for Pennsgrove, 27-21. I expect another close game, 1-score game, and it's always a blast to get down there. If you ever get the chance, no fans aren't really allowed there, but down the road, if you ever get a chance to see Pennsgrove-Salem, it's a treat.
Now, we got to see Pennsgrove the last 2 years in December against Willingboro. That's one of the things that John and I are most excited about. We're going to spread our wings beyond the borders of Burlington County a little bit more. That's going to be fun. just getting to know everything else. But this week, where will you be, John?
Well, Friday night I'll be at West Deptford, Willingboro. Like I said, one of those two teams is going to be 0-2. Aaron Graver, the quarterback for West Deptford, I'm looking forward to seeing him. They run a wing T offense, which you don't see a lot of that anymore either. Graver and Jacoby Williams they scored the touchdowns against Haddonfield. A couple long runs, and that offense, they're a threat to do that. Willingboro, obviously, Demi Sumo, he's going to be the main guy. They're going to have a running back rotation, but 3rd and 2, he's the one. Number 6 is getting the ball most of the time. And, of course, you have Sean Davis. You have Josiah Bello, who transferred over from Holy Cross. He had a couple catches this weekend. He's going to play a big role in the offense. He told me he's only playing offense this year. He's not going to play defensive back anymore. And I asked him how he felt about that. He said, it simplifies my game. I just have to catch the ball and get in the end zone. So, that's a great way of looking at it as far as I'm concerned. Saturday, Shawnee, Washington Township. Don't know that much about Township. I haven't seen them. Well, they haven't played yet, obviously. They have the same quarterback back from last year. They were 3-7 last year. I don't know how much that means. Shawnee obviously saw them last week. They intercepted Devin Cargan a couple of times. I saw Jalen Brownlee also had 3 interceptions. I wonder if defense is a little bit ahead of offense at this point. I wonder if we can say that almost as just a blanket statement to start out. Matt Wellesley threw 3 touchdown passes, had a nice game. They didn't run the ball as well as I thought they would, and I think that's something that they're going to have to clean up. And like I said, pass protection, it did seem to break down toward the end of the game. You see Shawnee play a game like that, that stuff's going to get fixed. They're going to address that.
Okay, well, that's about enough time for us this week. If you get a chance to go out to see a football game this weekend, be sure to go out and do it. If not, follow everybody here on Twitter, and follow the Burlington County Times on Twitter at BCT Game On, and South Jersey Gridiron Gang at SJ Gridiron Gang. And we will see you next week with another guest and another great week of high school football in South Jersey.